it's Professor Michael Cokkinos of the Advertising, Marketing, Communications Department here at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and today we're speaking about academic integrity. I'm joined by Brian Fallon. Brian is the founding director of the FIT Writing and Speaking Studio, and he has taught a myriad of classes in English and communication studies across a variety of different majors and disciplines across the college here. His specialty is peer-to-peer tutoring and learning, and its political and academic ramifications. So, Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Our focus today is on a very important topic for our students, academic integrity. And I think a lot of them, when I approach them, don't really even know what that means. So can you give us a brief description as what, academic integrity entails?
Sure. Well, actually, FIT has its own definition of academic integrity. And the definition that we use at FIT is focused primarily on mastery of subject material. So we're really concerned that students do master the knowledge and skills that they're trying to learn in their courses so they can be successful in the industry and in their careers. And so what we're focused on when we're talking about academic integrity is ensuring that people have that opportunity to learn, to do their best work, to invest in high quality work. And really you can't do that if you're just imitating other people's work or copying it and not attributing that work, essentially going about it as though you're claiming that work is original to you when it's actually somebody else's.
So how can students know whether they're being dishonest and not even knowing it?
Yeah, I think there are lots of cases where students may be unsure about their responsibilities when it comes to reproducing knowledge and sharing knowledge and information. And so I think it's important to have a lot of conversations with different people on campus. I think it's important to talk to your professors about what the expectations are for things like citing sources or making attributions, especially if you're doing visual work, and how people in your field, in your industry, go about doing that kind of work. Becoming familiar with how people share information is very critical in terms of making sure that you're doing your due diligence to ensure that your work is as ethical and responsible as possible. So one thing that I would really recommend is thinking about what are the policies put forth in your professor's syllabus around academic integrity. What kinds of things do you think really need to be cited, and questioning that quite often when you're doing your own work. So thinking about, well, is this really coming from me, or is this originating from my head? Is this coming from my own sort of creative experiences? Or is this something that I'm drawing on from somebody else? And if that's the case, then it's really your responsibility to make sure that you're giving credit where credit is due. You would want that same kind of credit for your work if somebody else was inspired by something that you did as well.
Makes good sense. So what are the benefits to students follow a policy of academic integrity in the long term?
Well, I think in the long term, I think it sets you up for success because it's really about demonstrating to not only your professors, but your colleagues professionally later in life that you're somebody who treats information ethically and responsibly, that you think about how fairness, you think about what's right, you think about how you want to not just represent the work of others, but respond to the work of others. So that may be something as simple as paraphrasing something in a paper that you've written, or it could be as important as maybe at some point in your career, you're in a boardroom and you're talking about somebody else's idea and you want to make sure that it's not coming across as though you've come up with that idea when it's clearly your colleagues, and so practicing this gives you some sense on how to make attribution in really sophisticated and really kind of important ways in these important kinds of environments where it matters, because there are consequences if you're not being as forthright with information as you should be.
Right. And students should know those consequences too. Obviously, every university has their own policies, and out in the workplace, and certainly lots of negative repercussions. How can the FIT Writing and Speaking Studio help students achieve the best academic integrity in their work?
Yeah, I think that academic integrity is also about our interest in academic integrity is an interest in high quality work. And so one of the things that happens when students come to the FIT Writing and Speaking Studio is that we focus on the individual and what their needs are and what their concerns are. Our main goal is to connect you with language that's going to help you powerfully and meaningfully communicate to the world. And so one of our objectives then is to not only enhance your voice, but to ensure that you're doing that in the most responsible way. So if we are noticing that you're trying to incorporate sources or source material, we're going to ask you lots of questions about why you need that information, how it's benefiting you, how it's helping you become a member of a larger conversation. And I think that that's something that's really important for students to be thinking about. When we're talking about attribution and we're talking about the importance of giving people credit where credit is due, it's also really about joining a conversation. And you want to be a responsible member of that conversation, and you want to be a responsible contributor to that conversation. So that means that you need to demonstrate where you fit in the overall larger dialogue that's going on around your subject area. And the only way to really do that responsibly is to cite your sources, is to make sure that you're making it known when you've been inspired by something or you're paying homage to something. And there are lots of different ways to do that. And we're here to support you in that process of thinking through how you would make yourself an accountable member of any kind of a conversation.
With FIT's programs, with being so diverse and unique, is there, some particular idiosyncrasies about, being academically integral or citing, things, for instance, in visual design and fashion?
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially since we have so many multimodal projects going on at FIT, sometimes it can be a little confusing on how you go about citing things like a YouTube video or how you've been inspired by work. And we have seen a lot of examples of student artistic work that's clearly inspired by other artists or other designers, and the attribution isn't really there. So the important thing for us to think about at a school like ours is how do we, a lot of people are inspired by things, right? A lot of people want to pay homage to an artist or a designer who's important to them. But we still have to do that in a way that's fair and responsible, in a way that will allow for your audiences to understand that you are drawing from someone or from something. And so there are ways to make that known to people, and there are ways to make sure that you are respecting other artists and designers' work, just like you would respect another writer's work or another scholar's work in order to further your own academic pursuits.
So with COVID-19, and being in isolation and learning remotely, and your work in the writing and speaking studio taking place remotely, how does that change things?
One thing that we're seeing is students are seeking more conversation in this environment in a different kind of way. We're seeing more students coming in for repeat visits. And so I think that they're establishing significant relationships with the consultants who work in our department. And I think that that ultimately is a good thing for academic integrity, because that way we get to see a piece through the entire process. So whether it's a speaking occasion that you're preparing for or some kind of a written document, if we're with you from your first steps at generating ideas all the way through the final stages of doing the polishing or the editing, it's more than likely that we're going to ask really good questions along the way about your research. We're going to ask really good questions about how you're thinking about folding in the work of others into your own work, how you're going to make those kinds of citations, which isn't always easy to do, for instance, when you're giving a presentation, right? Because in a paper, we cite a source, it's kind of clear that we cited it, but you need to find other ways to go about that when you're giving presentations. So making clear that something has been drawn from a source. So according to the CDC, insert information here. Those are things that we can coach you on along the way to help you think about how you can be as you know, honest with the work that you're doing, with your academic work, as you possibly can be.
Can you say a little bit about your peer-to-peer approach and the logistics and the success of that?
Sure. The majority of our consultants are peer consultants. So we have both peer writing and speaking consultants and some hybrid consultants who do both. They are from all sorts of different majors across the college, and some of them are graduate students. They are trained. We educate them on the teaching of writing and the teaching of speaking, but we also do a lot of what we call reflective practice. So once they have had experiences working with students, we ask them to think about those experiences, think about what worked well, what needs work, to constantly be bettering ourselves and thinking about how we really support students as they work their way through the writing or speaking process. So they're really well trained, they're educated, they're ready to work with you, but more important, they share your experiences. So they know what it's like to be in your classes. They're experiencing this remote learning the same way that you're experiencing it. They know what it's like to juggle internships, sometimes commutes. We're not all commuting that much these days, but some of us are, with online courses, with all sorts of different classes demanding time and expectations, sometimes multiple assignments due on the same day. So they understand all of these things. They live it just like you live it. And that's important because they know what you're going through. And when they're having a conversation with you, they have that real life perspective on what it's like to experience FIT in the way that you might be experiencing it. And that's not to say that everybody has the same kind of experiences across the board. We recognize that there are a lot of differences that people learn in different ways, and we honor that. We think about how important it is to meet people where they are in the moment, and peers, I think, can do that in a very special way that those people like me, faculty members, can't always. So do check it out as an opportunity to also connect with people. You know, it's hard right now to find your community at FIT. You have to put a lot of effort into that. It's not like walking down the halls at this point. So this is one more place where you can go to connect with individuals who share your experiences, but also can help you think through your goals and how you want to accomplish your goals.
So how can students find out more and get in touch with you guys at the Writing and Speaking Studio?
Well, we're available on the web, obviously. So go to our website. It's www.fitnyc.edu/writing studio. And from there, you'll find all sorts of information. We have information about our consultations, what speaking consultations look like, what writing consultations look like, as well as some videos on how to make appointments, how to navigate online sessions. So if you're a little intimidated by, you know, going on and trying to figure it all out, there are some step-by-step guides for you. Also, I just recommend go on and make an appointment. It's really easy to do. It takes only a couple of seconds to sign up for an account. And once you make that appointment and you log in and meet with that consultant, you'll see what it's all about. And you'll know that it's about conversation. It's not necessarily going to be what a lot of people think it might be, which is kind of like editing and stuff like that. It's really about talking about ideas and making sure that you're communicating your ideas at a very high level. So that's the work that we do. And we use all sorts of technological tools to make it happen these days. And we are very busy as well. So do plan ahead. Think about booking appointments maybe a week or two in advance.
So we've been speaking with Brian Fallon, who is the founding director of the FIT Writing and Speaking Studio, on academic integrity and the benefits and kind of the logistics thereof. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you for having us and letting us talk about the Writing and Speaking Studio.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Brian.